most generous immigration system in the world. In fiscal year 2015, the State Department issued almost 10 million visas for people seeking temporary entry into the United States. State Department issued an additional 531,463 immigrant visas last year alone. Those 10.5 million immigrants and non-immigrant visa holders joined an estimated 20 million others who entered the United States without visas under the Visa Waiver Program. Our government also issued 1,075,063 border crossing cards to Mexican nationals in just the first 10 months of fiscal year 2015. There are an estimated, we're guessing, close to 10 million border crossing cards in circulation today. On top of that, more than 1 million non-immigrant students are lawfully studying in the United States on student visas. Some 2,093,711 individuals were granted employment authorization in fiscal year 2015. In fiscal year 2013, the last year for which statistics are available, the United States granted asylum status to 25,199 people. And from fiscal year 2008 to fiscal year 2014, the number of individuals claiming a credible fear of persecution in their home country increased some 921%. If we can put that graphic up, I would appreciate it. We are seeing a rapid rise in people coming to the United States, stepping foot into our country and claiming asylum. We've had a lot of discussion about refugees who the administration wants to import to the United States of America. But let's also understand the surge that's happening on our borders. Just today on the front page of the Washington Post, it has a front page story about the number of children that are coming across our borders. You can put that graphic down. Thank you. The total number of asylum applications filed between fiscal year 2010 and fiscal year 2014 more than doubled, going from 47,000 plus to over 108,000. And 69,933 refugees were resettled in the United States just last year. But that's an incomplete picture and evidently not enough for the Obama administration. Not everyone who is here came legally or obtained lawful status once they got here. In fiscal year 2013, 241,442 people were processed for expedited removal. In fiscal year 2014, the Border Patrol made 486,651 apprehensions. Still, there's up to an estimated 15 million people that are here illegally. It's estimated that 40% of those folks entered legally and simply did not leave. These numbers beg the question of whether the United States is doing enough to vet people who are applying to come to the United States. Our world is changing, and along with it, the types of threats that we encounter. Certainly, with our experience with 9/11, the Boston bombers, and our more recent terrorist attacks make it clear that the immigration screening process is a critical element in protecting the American people. Reviewing the backgrounds of foreign nationals before they come to the United States is crucial in understanding who is entering the United States. And the recent terrorist attacks in San Bernardino and Paris highlight how important these background checks have to be. We saw some of the most horrific terror episodes that we've had in our nation recently in California. 14 people murdered, wounding 21 more. It was the deadliest terrorist attack in the United States soil since September 11th. Tashfeen Malik came to the United States on a fiancé visa before getting her green card. She reportedly passed 3 background checks as she immigrated to the United States from Pakistan. First, DHS checked her name against American law enforcement and national security databases. Then the State Department used her fingerprints to do a criminal background check. Finally, when she was applying for a lawful permanent resident status, DHS checked her out again. She cleared each check. No red flags were raised. But it was pretty clear now in looking back that it was well known among her friends and family that she supported violent jihad against the United States. It's being reported this morning, I think it's MSNBC, that as early as 2011, Homeland Security was preparing to check social media, and yet Homeland Security decided that was a bad idea. Almost every story I've ever heard, read, and seen is about, even the President has made comments about terrorists who are really good at using social media. And back in 2011, when Homeland Security was thinking about using social media, the decision in Homeland Security was, bad idea. They made the wrong call. They made the really wrong call. It is unclear what DHS will actually do when it encounters fraud via social media or other tools it utilizes for applicants seeking admission to the United States. It's my understanding that Homeland Security might start looking at it. This is publicly available information. Under current law, overstaying a visa, violating its terms, or committing fraud in the immigration process is sufficient to render an alien deportable. But now, pursuant to executive actions, such conduct is not necessarily a priority for removal. All too often, we hear stories of offenders who are encountered by law enforcement until they overstayed and committed crimes. And then Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Homeland Security, puts out guidance and say, even if you commit sex crimes, even if you do certain other crimes, don't necessarily need to deport them. They're here illegally, they commit a crime, and Homeland Security is saying, use discretion. We may not want to deport these people. It's not a threat to public safety. You tell a woman who's been raped that it's not against public safety to have that person here. We're going to go through that in this committee here today. A joint subcommittee hearing last Thursday left many in this committee's members frustrated and confused about the country's ability to address a growing threat. Homeland Security sent its Deputy Assistant Secretary for Screening Coordination Office to this committee. It was an embarrassment. As the Deputy Assistant Secretary, her bio states she, quote, deters, detects, and denies access to or withholds benefits from individuals who may pose a threat to the United States of America. She couldn't answer a single question. I don't know. I'll have to get back with you. All the promises she made, by the way, she didn't fulfill. People come in by land, by sea, or by air. She thinks most people come into this country by air. And she's in charge of screening. You can see why we're scared to death that this administration, the Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, is not protecting the American people. She has worked in that office since 2007. The basic lack of information of a senior official raises serious concerns. It inspires little confidence. And Americans have legitimate concerns about the threat that radical extremists pose to their safety and the safety of their friends, families, and communities. I'd like to complete my opening remarks with a video. This is of the National Security Advisor, and then followed up by you'll see, it'll speak for itself.
Is President Obama reconsidering his plan to accept 10,000 Syrian refugees over the next year?
No, Chris, we're still planning to take in Syrian refugees. We have very robust vetting procedures for those refugees. It involves our intelligence community, our National Counterterrorism Center, extensive interviews, vetting them against all the available information.
Bringing Syrian refugees into the United States?
No, Chuck, we have very extensive screening procedures for all Syrian refugees who would come to the United States. There's a very careful vetting process that includes our intelligence community, our National Counterterrorism Center, the Department of Homeland Security, so we can make sure that we're carefully screening anybody who comes to the United States.
And are you confident enough in our vetting process as the United States brings Syrian refugees into our country to pledge that this will never happen here?
With respect to refugees, we have the most extensive security vetting that we've ever had to deal with Syrian refugees coming into the United States that involves not just the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department, but also our intelligence community, the National Counterterrorism Center, so that anybody who comes to the United States, we are carefully vetting against all of our information.
I think that's the challenge we're all talking about, is that we can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has never made a ripple in the pond in Syria in a way that would get their identity or their interests reflected in our database, we can query our database till the cows come home, but we're not going to, there'll be nothing show up because we have no record on that person. That's what Assistant Director Steinbach was talking about. You can only query what you've collected.
At least the FBI director calls it like it is. At least the FBI director telling us candidly what's happening out there. And in the case of the most recent terrorist attacks, when the person maybe hasn't been here or there are other circumstances, you can see why we have great cause for concern. So we have a